Okay, so yeah, good afternoon. Welcome to another class, right? So we're going to be picking up from where we left up. The last class we talked about GetX, right? GetX state management, and we're able to see, certain things, that can be done with GetX. We looked at dependency injections, um, the whole reactive stuff and everything. We looked at a lot of stuff, right? OBS and that. So yeah, basically state management. So today we'll continue on our Storezy app, right? Let's see if we can do a bit of UI, right? And then see how much we can, build out of this to, better understand certain features of GetX and how we can reuse it. So we're gonna be doing so. I wanted to actually build the UI before now, but I was like, you know what? Let me just you know, let me not assume, right? Let's just see how it goes. Okay, so first of all, we're building a Storezy app, right? Which is more like a store application, right? Just do a few things there, reviews and a lot of that. So we had this welcome to class zero. So this was just we trying to explain, you know, um, understand the OBX, right, in the last class. But we're going to do away with that. Okay. But before then, I want to create some widgets. So we're going to be using a nav drawer first, right? We're actually going to be using a nav drawer. So I'm going to put that in my widget file. So, but let's just nav drawer, right? So let's just create a nav drawer that we're going to be making use of. Now, our nav drawer is going to be a stateless widget, right? So, STL is usually very short, it's a shortcut to get that done. I guess my system is dragging a bit, but I don't have all the time in the world, so I'm gonna call it nav drawer, right? And it's going to extend um a stateless widget. Okay. For some reason, I think my VS Code is kind of slowing down a bit. So okay. So yeah, we need to override the method, which is the build method actually, right? So okay, so we're just going to return a drawer widget, right? We have a widget called a drawer widget. Okay, I'm going to return the drawer widget. But drawer widget has a lot of a few things we can actually just do: background color, elevation, and a lot of other things, right? But it's kind of like a single child widget, just takes a child. So we're going to focus on that. And we want the child to be a list view because we want to have a list of, widgets. So um, list view takes, children, right? It takes some other form of, you know, what's it called? Widgets. So now we're going to, let's see. So we want our list views to have Java. I'm going to we're going to use the drawer header, right? Which actually takes a child. So the child for us here first is just going to be a text. Um, so we'll call that Storezy, right? Yeah. So we'll just have a header for our drawer. Some let's kind of align it to the center text align, right? For now, I'm not really going to just bother about this style, but of course, since it's the header, I kind of would want the font size, but that would mean we using this style. So for now, let's just get this. So for the font size, I just need to kind of increase that to, let's say, 24, right? Um, okay, so just yeah. Okay, so So after our drawer, which is just the header, right? We can now have a list of items, right? So I'm just going to use a list tile for now, right? Um, a list style, you need to take a leading just like the leading. So I'm going to say um, icon dot. So I need something to kind of change the name. Let me see if this will give. Uh, let's say change. Um, okay, let's just try this one, right? And then for color. So now this is, I'm going to do something for the color, right? Which the color is for the icon. Now, remember, we're going to consider, one of the things I'm going to consider is dark mode, right? So I can say for the color, get dot is dark mode, right? So get has that ability to check if this, so this will return a true or false based on the system's um system value. So if it is a dark mode, right, we want the colors to be, I think we had some colors that we prepared. Have colors dot let's use this. But if it is not, right, if it is dark mode, use this. But if it is not dark mode, right, that means it's light mode. So of course we would want to, let's use a um space blue for that. Okay, so that's just that. Okay, so um okay. Now apart from the leading, right, the list style um takes a title. So text. So let's say we want to change our store name, right? Let's say we want to change our store name. Um, then I'm just kind of just leave style. So let's just do it though. I just want to show for, I'll just do it once. Other ones you probably just set it up yourself. So for the style, rather, we need a text style. We need a text style. 18, right? And then I want to now change this particular text style. I kind of want to change the color, right? Sorry, let me share my screen again. Yeah, don't worry, I know my screen share is stopped. Okay, so a text style of let's say with a font size of 18, and then so for the color of this text, right, same thing. I also want to do the same thing here, right? I also want to do the same thing because we're considering what dark mode and light mode, right? So, but I think after this, I'll probably just repeat stuff. Now, the list style itself, right, has an untap function, right? When you actually tap on it, it should actually what do something. Now, what we want to do basically is we'll not do that now, but we just want to close. By clicking on that, we'll close the drawer, right? And then after closing the drawer, we now go. So close the drawer and go to another screen. That's basically what we want to do, right? But we're not doing that now. Let's just try to get out the UI. Um, yeah. So that's actually just for one list tile, right? So we're going to create for multiple list tile. We're going to create for multiple list tile. Now we need let's say 1, 2, 3. Let's say 3. I need 3 of it. Now, so please take note. right? Take note of what I'm going to say. I'm going to create three more. So that means we'll have four. And I'm going to be repeating this code, right? That is four. I'm going to be repeating it. Now, when you are cloning this project, right, or when you're pulling this branch, you will update this. Please, this is your first task. So please, Collins, note this for me, right? I don't want to have to create three list tiles. Why should I do that? Right? I want to be able to just create one, right, as a separate widget, and then just, kind of call it externally, right? Call it and then change the variables, right? The values like the text, and all that, right? So that's going to be part of people's first task. So please, colleagues, just take note of that so I can also. So, but what we are going to be using is, so let's say, um, the second one will be to add followers. I think this is the wrong place. I want it to be after change store name, then we have add followers. And let's say, so let's assume, so this is not really like a real time application, but is the essence of this is to understand GetX. So we're going to have some weird features, and you'll be like, okay, can this be done really? Like, so increment followers, and then this this could be toggle the store status, right? So kind of want to like toggle the store status, right? And okay, I think we should have one. Let's have one more, so that we also learn a bit about kind of do some backend stuff, database stuff. So let's say add reviews, right? Okay, so yeah, so let's change some icons. So add reviews. Well, what icon did we use here? So I think there should be something about, let's say, comments. Let's just use some sharp stuff. This is toggle, right? So of course, just to look for the toggle, we have the toggle on. So by default, right? By default, we're going to use the toggle on, toggle on sharp, right? Not because there's any, what's it called? Preference, right? Why it must be sharp, I think, but it must not be sharp. It can be blunt. Okay, so to increment followers, right? Um, I need something that just shows and like a, what was it called? Like you're adding stuff. So can use that. And then for adding of followers, right? Let's use just reaction because followers kind of to do it all. Let's just play around. Okay, so yeah. So these are nav drawer, right? We are actually done, but of course we can't see it, right? I just done my control S, which should do a hot reload, right? But we can't actually see it. Now, why is that? If we go to our main.dart, right? We just have our get material app, we have our pages. So we're going to do away with this home too, but maybe not now, right? But in our home, right, that is where we have, this scaffold, right? We have a scaffold with widgets there, and then in our scaffold widget, that is where we can actually add a drawer, right? So after the, I think I'm also going to do away with this button, but let's just leave it for the meantime. So after the floating action button, we have the drawer property, and then I'll just call in the slide drawer. Sorry. Um, so let's hold on. Let me see. What did I call it? Okay, nav draw. I hope constructors should have a named key. Okay, that's not it. I hope I'm not using a keyword. So now drawer, right? And then we'll have to import that. So just hold on for that, and then so let's import it, and then I think that's that. So Control S. Hope I'm not having any error anywhere. So you can see we have our nav drawer. So when we click on it, so this is what we have, right? So this is the header that we created, right? This is the drawer header that we created here, right? So yeah, a lot of things you can do here. You can design whatever you want and add an image, and all those stuff. But I can decide to, let's see, what will be the effect of, probably just adding a center. Yeah, to just keep it here, right? So we have this change store name, add followers, increment followers, toggle status, right? Add reviews. So for now, these are not clickable, right? Because like there's nothing, they don't take any action, right? So you can click out to close it. So yeah, so that's the drawer. Okay, think what we are done with that. So that's one interesting widget we need. Now we're also going to need another widget that we're going to create. It's going to be like a rounded input for us to kind of input like a text field, right? We'll need to be able to input stuff. So it's like I said, one of the things you have to be doing is to create what reusable what widgets, which of course I want to believe that you guys know that already. So let's just create one. I'm going to call it okay, so to extend the stateless widget, right? And then of course, I'm just going to, you know, create missing variable. And so basically just want to return, okay, sorry about that. So we basically want to return a widget, right? And the widget we want to return is a text field. Now we're going to customize this text field such that it can be reusable anywhere, any day, anytime. Okay. Now to make that reusable, we need to, so let me not assume, right? So let's just do some few stuff, right? Um, let's say, uh, okay, hold on, let's see, too many explainable found on to return, um, text view, text field, right? Okay, so hold on, let me see. Okay. Yeah, so I have that now. So autofocus true, right? So you should just focus on it, right? Now, um, okay, let me just do the basic stuff, right? So we'll use input decoration to kind of decorate it, and just a few properties that we're going to just be calling, right? To kind of customize this guy. So it's then, so let's say now we need a hint text, right, to hint the user. And this actually takes a string, right? Now, the thing about it is if we create a string, it means that wherever we are using this input field, that particular hint will be there. But of course, the hints can change based on the input field since we're considering reusing it. So what we can just do is to create a string variable. I'll call it hint text, right? And since it's final, we now have to pass it in as a we'll just create constructor with that so that once we are calling the round input, we pass in the hint text. So with this, all I just need to do is say hint text. So when you're using this widget, you have to now pass in a hint text, and it can be different, right? Um, so of course your hint style, right? Because you should hint should be it shouldn't be very, very visible, right? So I'm just going to just change color. I'll just use colors that's gray, right? Um, so field true. Try not to overdo though. Let me just add one thing. Like a border or something. right? Now for border, I'll use the outline input border, which has a border radius because I need that border radius. So I'll say border radius dot circular. So that will give it on all edges. So let's say like 6. Okay. So after the border, now it has a what was it called? The text field, right? So just after the decoration, so the text field has a function called what on submitted, right? It has a function called on submitted. So what do we want to do? So we need it takes a function back. So it's called when the user indicates that they are done editing, the text in the field. Um, so what I'm going to do instead of I don't want to take any action here, but I want to be able to pass in a function, something that wants to be done. So another thing that we need also is a controller, right? Of course, which that helps us to get whatever the user is what's typing. And we can't just create a controller here. So we need these two things to be dynamic, right? We need these two things to be dynamic. So let me start with the controller, which is just all I have to say is text editing controller. Now, one of the things that we need to do, sometimes you need to figure out which property should be nullable, right? It's not a must that you must, kind of put in everything at the same time. So my controller could be nullable because I may or may not need it, right? And then also the function, I may or may not need to call a function. So, but this function, you can see it's a void function. It takes a void function of type string, right? So we're just going to create that returns a string, right? And then I'll call it on submit. So it's just so here, all I'll just do is pass in on submit. Here, what I'm going to pass in is controller, right? And then I'm going to pass in these final variables. Now, you notice that it will not say it is what required because this is nullable. So it won't state that it is what required, right? So this gives us a reusable input what text field what widget, right? Now, we're going to also need a card, right? We're going to need a card, which is kind of just going to since this store. So let's say okay, let me just call it car. Let me just say car dot dot, right? Um, okay, STL finally works. So I'll call it card or so that I don't use keywords. I could just say main card, so I don't use keywords. Um, so I'm just gonna do this quickly, right? I'm gonna do this quickly so that's um so return a card. And now thing about cards, cards has some properties like the elevation. I want it to pop out a bit. Now for the shape, right? So I could let's use a rounded rectangular border, which has a border radius of border radius dot only. Okay, so we just um okay, you know what? Let's just say dot all or dot circular, right? And then just say let's say 10, right? I'm not really big on doing much design here. So the card takes a child. Now the child is going to be a column because we want to display some information there, right? We want to display some information. Um, Now, and let's say so children obey your parents in the Lord. Okay. So let me see. So I just need a text, right? Now, I don't want to so we'll have to, since this card also want to reuse it, right? And text, we need to pass in a text, right? We actually need to pass in a text there. So, but for now, let me just do this, right? And then do some few stuff. Text align center. Um, Oh well, let's forget style. Like I said, you can go and style it yourself. So final, let's say text, or let's say title, string title, right? So we're going to, you know, add that, and then here I'll just say title, right? Okay, so that's us reusing this. Let me kind of just um wrap this in a padding, right? And then you can, of course, the color of that, let's just say, um, okay, so before, I need to, so let's wrap this padding in a container also. Okay. So instead of doing both of them, padding is also a property of the container. So I could just remove the padding widgets, and then the container has padding. So there's no need having that kind of what's it called? Yeah, so for the color, let's see if you can use a dark mode, right? So I'm basically checking if it's actually dark mode. We'll use colors.gray for the background of the container, right? But if it is light mode, we'll use uh, to import this, right? Okay, I think we have that. Okay, so yeah, that's just that. And then we need a what's it called? A body. Now, you see, interestingly, right, I'm going to do something. Now, after this container that is just going to hold the title, now there could be some description. You understand? Let's assume it's a product. There could be some description. Right now, I don't have any idea how I want it to look, right? So what I can do is, okay, the next thing I want it to do is to take a padding. First of all, I want to give a padding, right? Now, um, the padding should just, dot all, let's say 10. Now, for the child, right? For the child, I kind of don't know what the child should be, right? I don't know for now. So what I can do is I can also now pass in a widget. I'll just call it body, right? And then um just import that. Sorry. Yeah, add the final stuff. And then pass in what's body here. Because the child takes a widget, right? So we're actually good. Okay. So well, that's actually that. So I've created three of our components. Now, of course, what's left now is to create the screens, right? We now need to be able to create the screens that we're going to be using. But let's go to our home page and see. We kind of don't want these things here anymore, right? So let's create an icon button to switch between the dark mode and the and the light mode, right? So I don't need this what's it called? I don't need the floating action button again. So let's work on our home screen, right? Um Here should go out, right? Now I like to make drawer come up before body. So it's just preference though. Now, in our app bar, right, which is here, I want to display an icon here. So we're going to use the actions, property, which takes a list of what you know, widgets also. So we're going to use icons button, all right? Icon, should be icon, right? Mhm. Yeah, icon button. For the unpressed, So let me control space should give me, yeah. And then for the icon, we could just, so for the icon, we're going to just do everything. We're going to just switch based on dark mode, right? So let's see. So is dark mode, um, if it's dark mode, use this icon. I'm going to use const because I don't want it to, it doesn't have to. So I'll say icons dot, let me see. Oh, we have a lights mode. Let's see what this one is. Okay, that's nice. So, or if it's not in dark mode, right, we can use icons. Sorry. Which is a dark mode. Since there's light mode, there's dark mode. Yeah, okay, so yeah. So that's what we want to do. Then for the unpressed, we now want to switch, right, between both modes. So remember we created stuff in our theme controller. So I'm going to just say if get dot is dark mode, right? So if this is true, what we want to do is we need our theme controller, right? We need our theme controller. I'm going to take this out because we don't need this. We used this to just explain something, right? So what we need is, so I'm going to say final theme controller, right? So I'm going to use get.find. Now, before I use get.find, I need to confirm. If not, I should just use what get.what put, right? You need to confirm that you have, your binding is actually working. I think I talked about get.put and get.find. Oh, sorry. What am I doing? Right? But the question is, have we I don't think we have not gotten there, right? So we've not gotten to that point. So for now, let's just um do get dot put. Okay. So we're gonna use our theme controller object. So if it's dark mode, right? We're going to change. So let's see. Okay. Let me see. Okay. So change theme. Okay. So okay, for some reason, hold on. Oh, okay. I think hold on, let me confirm something. Yeah. Yeah. So I didn't add that. So we want to change the theme, right? If it is dark mode, right, and you click on the icon, we want to change it to what light what mode. So I'll say themes dot light theme. Sorry. Okay. I remember where this light theme is coming from, right? From our themes what file, right? So we have light theme and dark theme, what the primary colors and all those stuff should be. Okay. So if it is dark mode, do that and then save it. So use our theme controller dot what save the what theme should be what false, setting it to what false. Now, else, let me just copy this. So this should be dark thing. And then let's make this true. Okay, so let's let's see what we have here. I'm just going to Control S. So we have this here, right? So when I click on it, you can see we've gone to what? Dark mode, right? We have gone to dark mode, light mode, dark mode, light mode. At least the text is responding. The text is black. Why? Because primary where is that guy? Right? So on primary is what? Black, right? In light mode, right? It's actually black. Okay, right? Yeah, so in dark theme, we have this and all that. So on secondary, we have white, which is white text, right? So that's basically how you switch um, dark mode and light mode with GetX, right? Pretty much easy, actually. Okay, so I think we have done that. Now let's do the major work now, right? Let's do the major work. So let's create what our store would look like, right? So yeah, permits me for us to kind of do a bit of building of UI here. So um since it's a padding, so how many of you know this widget, the single child scroll view? So right, but so just helps you to what kind of scroll, you know, have that scroll effect. So I'm going to have a column inside of it. And the essence is so that it doesn't, to avoid this whole overflow thing, right? So for the children, right, this is interesting. So I'm going to just call our words, let me see, children, column, children. Now I'm going to call our main word card, right? I think that's um, what did I call it? Yes, main card. So I'm going to call that just import it, right? So I can now reuse it. Now it takes title, right? It's only title that is required. Controller, if I'm not mistaken, function. It takes a where are you? Card takes a title, a body, which is a widget, right? Um, so it takes those two things, right? So the parameter is read, but there's no one. Try the required argument. So for title, I'm going to just say I say store info, right? Now it's a named parameter. So um the next one, it requires a body, right? And the body is the widget. So I'm going to now bring in a column here, right? And the column also have children, right? So let's just Control S and see what we have so far. So this is what we have so far. So you can see that. So now the column, let's see. Let's the column have a row such that the row can now have a text. The text there should be, let's say, store name, right? Um so let's say store name. Let's save that. Let's see what we have. Okay, uh so that's the row. Now it just takes the space. What else can we have here? So okay, so let's have another text, right? I need to put the comma here, Control S, bring it down. So let's add another text. Um, so mm, Let me just give you this. I'll figure out what to do. So store name one, store name two, right? So for now, let's say we just want only these two things, right? In this row, right? Remember, we have our column, and then in our column, we have row. So in this row, we just want only these two things to be in this row. Now you can see how they are actually placed. They're in a row already. They're in a row rather. I could say that I want a space, between them. So I'll use the main axis alignment dot space between. When I save that, yeah, so you can see it gives space between both of them, right? But you see, another thing, well, the column, well, I'll show you when I add a column. So let's say we want to, um, this is actually the name, right? And the interesting about the name is that you can't necessarily control how much, what's it called? How much characters there is. I'm going to wrap this name in a widget uh, called flexible, right? In a widget called what? Flexible. I'm going to use a flexible what? Widget. You can read up at that. It just creates so you see it creates a widget that controls how a child of a row or column or flex, how it flexes, how it expands, right? So I want it to be tight, right? So just after the text, it has a fit, which is, and I'll say flex fit dot height. Flex fit dot height. So I know we have a lot of const stuff here, so and sometimes it can be very, very, very daunting. So you can just do this, right? But some places it will shout in some places, right? So you just need to know when to use it and when not to use it, right? So so let's kind of uh, clean this up. So it says this guy should be the last. Um, so not so move that. So it should be the last. So the flex fit should come first, and then we don't need this const. We need a const here. Okay, so I think it's looking a bit cleaner. All right, so let's just save that. Okay, we are good. We are good. Um, okay, so we need a first of all, I think we created we haven't we need stuff. Some of these values needs to be able to change, and that's where the OBX comes in, right? But let's just kind of move for now. So after this row, I want to have a space, so I'll just use a sized box to just create a space, kind of between two things, right? So, okay, so it's saying unnecessary keyword, and the reason is because we already have a const here. So this one is just kind of like covering for all these other guys. So after the sized box, I'm going to also get, I also need a text, right? The same kind of stuff. So, but I need it in a row also. So I'm just going to copy this, right? Now, yeah, copy this. And then, so interesting things like this, you can just abstract them, to make them more reusable, especially if, so it all depends on, um, so let's say this should now be followers, store followers, right? So let's say that's store followers. Okay. But so let's see how that looks. Yeah, so we have store followers. So we'll be able to we'll put what will happen here, store name, we'll put the name, store followers will actually put the actual number of followers, right? That's basically what we are going to do. Say, but after this, after this our flexible, since still on the row, right? We have this store name, but um we also need to kind of make it a bit, we still need to make it tight. There are two things we're going to do. I'm going to show you guys two things, right? Number one is how we can update. I know I showed us, right, using OBX and get builder, right? And I'm still going to show us the same thing here, right? I'm still going to show us the same thing here. But for now, let's just leave it like this. This would, but just know that in the end, we'll just have, something like with OBX, and then we'll have, let's say, 11. 11 will be gotten, right? And we'll also have with what's it called, with get builder. So we're going to use those two, you understand, while in our work today. So let me, sorry. So we're going to use those two. Okay, so yeah, that's just this design stuff. So um no much sweat. Now another thing we would also need uh is status, right? Hope I did not. So status, I'm just going to take this out, and I didn't give this space, so let me make it even. Okay. Okay, good. So I'm just putting stuff there. So it's going to be either open or closed, right? It's going to be either open or closed. So um, but we'll update it, from the controller class, which we will create. But for now, let's just hard code stuff, right? Or just hard coding stuff. Yeah, I think so this is for the main card, right? Which is this guy. This is for the main card, which ends here, right? Which actually ends what here. So let's add something else. Let's add another mid sized box with a height of 20. So all we did now was for, store info, right? All we did actually now is for store info. Now we're going to do for, so I'm just still going to call the main card. Now for title, I'm going to, for followers, want to be able to know people that are following. And then for body, now for body, we're going to use an OBX, but not now. So for now, we're going to just use a list view builder, right? Um, which takes an item builder, right? And the item builder basically just takes two things, right? So you can just do control select context and index, right? So what we want to do now, it has a nullable return type of widgets, right? So we need to return a widget. Now, what widget are we going to return, right? We'll just return a text for now. Return a text um, that says, um, you know, 11, right? So let's see. Isn't a const constructor, so um isn't it, so try removing the const. So we have const somewhere, and I think it's here. So it's affecting that guy, right? So you can see the error goes out. So for now, just say 11, right? Since it's a list view builder, just a few setup, shrink wrap should be true. Yeah, David, go ahead. Your hand is raised. Go ahead. And then
Yeah, yeah, so far so good. Yeah, the front lines. I just wanted to ask a quick question. Is there a story behind Storezy? More like requirements and all that we need to have.
well, I'm kind of in a way making it up as it goes. But think of it this
Okay.
way.
Okay.
Think of it this way, right? It's just you have a store. You want to be able to see the number of followers you have, the status, if you're open or not. Think of it like a shop, right? So we're just
Oh,
creating.
oh,
Um,
oh, okay.
yeah.
So more like from the management side of a store.
You can call it that. You can call it that way. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. You can see reviews and all those stuff, which is what we are actually going to be doing. So yeah, you can just call it that. That one, that still works. Okay, so I'm going to these are these are followers, right? Now for followers, I want to be able to see, I'll just it will just give me the like what's it called? Index for now, right? To show me people. But for now, so I think 11 is much. Maybe I'll just make it 5, right? Um Now the next one is for reviews. I want to be able to see reviews, right? I want to be able to see reviews that people have sent in, right? So the title will be reviews, and then what will it will return instead of just a text, it will return a list tile, right? To return a list tile. Um, for now, we will populate this with actual data, right? That we will actually create. But for now, um, let's say David, and then subtitle of it should be um review an amazing store, right? Okay, so let's just save this. Did I say 11? Okay, so well, let's just make it 5. Sorry. Hmm. So yeah, so these are the reviews. So we'll be able to see, reviews, right? So this is store info. You can see your name, follower status. You can see the people that follow. You can see reviews, right? That's kind of what we are just doing, right? But this information, we will, we need to, I want us to be able to put actual stuff, right? So we will run the application. We'll be able to create a review. We'll be able to add followers. We'll be able to increase followers. In fact, everything, if well, anyone I leave out based on time, we should be able to do all these things, right? By the end of this class, right? By the end of this application. Okay. So for now, right? Yeah, let's work with this, right? This is not the worst, it's not the worst UI on the planet Earth, but it's something we can, start. So let's just do so let's go to one very important thing now, right? Is the controller, right? Now, of course, every logic that we actually need to do stuff is going to be in the controller class. Every logic, right? So let's just work that out, and then I think we should have a bit of time to do stuff. So I'm going to delete this counter controller, or better still, let me just rename it to store. Store controller, right? Yep, make it and F2 store controller, right? Okay, so I don't think we don't need this, and I hope I'm not calling it anywhere. Okay, so remember we created a repository and all those stuff, and of course our repository contains where we have most of our functions and call to do stuff like read reviews, write reviews, and all that, right? We also have a store provider which we created the very first class, right? So yeah, we set up all these things. Then that was well the first time we started the so I'm going to bring in my repository here. I think I have closed this out. Yes, Collins, go ahead.
Okay, sorry, I wanted to ask real quick.
Yeah.
I get the idea behind the controller as in where your business logic lies, but a repository, I don't actually get the concept. What is this purpose? Like what is the idea behind it?
Okay, so that will take us to studying about which you should know, but I think let me know assume this is all. So let's say we'll do that in the next class. We'll talk about MVVM, right? We'll talk about the MVVM, MVC, and MVVM model. So once again, remind me, just drop that on the channel, right? Or send it to me as a DM. Let's talk about that, right?
Oh,
Yeah, let's have a session for that so that we can better understand it, even using examples. Okay.
all right, all right,
Oh,
all right.
okay. So let's just finish this up. So what we're going to do, we're going to create Okay. Yeah. Okay. So let's continue. So I want to create some observable variables, right? That we're going to make use of to observe these values, like the store name, the followers, the status, list of followers, list of reviews, and all those, right? So final store name, right? For now, I can actually just give this a default, right? Let's just call it Storezy. But just in case you want to change the name, I'll just make it an OBS, right? Final follower count, right? That should be 0.obs also, right? Final, you have the status. So our store status, let's make that true dot obs as a default value. Um, Follower list. So that's just going to be a list, right? An empty list, but we'll make it observable also, right? Reviews. So we already have a store review as a type, right? So I could just do this, but this is just same thing. It's just going to create an empty list, but we have a store review already. Um, I hope I think that should be. Yeah, so store reviews, yes. So we already have, you know, this, we have this model, so we're just going to make use of that. So I'm just going to say, so this is basically just explicitly saying that this is for store reviews, right? So you can see this would be an observable list of store reviews, okay? So now since we're going to add reviews and all those stuff, right? And we have an input field, we need a controller. Okay, so I'm going to just this is basically set up. I already in my head, I already so of course some of these things, especially the controllers, is dependent on your UI, right? It's dependent on your UI. So I kind of have a very simple UI in my head. So this is just creating, so we're just setting up, right? So the have for store name, we'll have stuff for review for follower and then the reviewer name. So review um follower controller, and then the let's say the review name. Okay, so now let's set the follower count to be 0 by default. So that's the default value 0, right? Um, so another thing is well, for now, let's get the what's it called? The controller. And we'll get to talk about binding later, right? But one thing you can actually do is in here, you can actually call your store controller, right? Let me just we're just doing a get method to um sorry, hold on, I think that should be get to, yeah, that should be get dot find, right? So you may not actually use this though, but well, this is just going to help us to kind of get the what's it called? The store controller, right? Yeah, so let's do some stuff. Um, so in our controller, we're going to override the on init method, right? The on initialize. So when the store controller is being initialized, right? What do we want to do, right? One of the things we want to do when it is first initialized is to get the reviews, which is the list dot assign all, right? So want to get basically we just want to read the reviews and what put it in that list, right? So we'll use the repository dot what read reviews. So this is just going to get, so we want to just get the reviews we have whenever okay, sorry about that. So Collins, where did you guys lose me?
Um, you were get sorry, the two static method. Yeah, sorry, on a need. Sorry,
Yeah, on init. Okay.
you
Okay.
were just overriding
So
it.
yeah. So I think I asked I asked a question, right? How many of you have used a worker function before, right? I don't know. Okay. Well, don't worry, we have a lot to look into. So there's this worker function called ever, right? Now, basically what it does, right, is just called every time, listener changes, right? So as long as the condition is true, it's actually going to call every time the listener changes. So um this is basically what we want to do. So for our listener, we want to listen to the reviews, right? We want to listen to the reviews. Now for a callback, well, we can just leave this as callback or we just do this, right? But what we want to do is just say repository dot write reviews and then um that's then reviews, right? So for our write reviews is what we have what here. We already have that in our repository, which we worked on that was 2 classes ago, right? So these are just 2 things we want to initialize when we create. So let's create some other little functions quickly. So number one is to increment the store followers, right? How do we get to increment the store followers? right? We have a store follower count, right? I'll just do plus plus and then updates. I believe you remember this manual stuff. So we're gonna have then to update the store name, update store name, um, update store name. Yeah. So it's going to take a name, right? And then our store name, you know, string is going to what be, you know, updated, right? Yeah, Collins, go ahead.
Sorry, not to take us back, but I want to ask, should be the update method only works on get builder widgets and not OBX, right?
No, it doesn't work on OBX. It's the get builder.
Only
And yeah, and the reason I'm using it is because I'm going to demo on with this app. I'm going to demonstrate the use of get builder and OBX too. In the
okay,
end,
okay.
in the end, you guys will get to now choose which one you prefer, that you want to work with. So I'm going
All
to
right.
demonstrate both of them. For example, the store followers count. I'm going to get it and display it with OBX. I'm also going to get it and display it with the get builder. So you guys now see how both of them actually works.
Okay.
Yeah. So yeah, update store name. Okay, let's not make that void. So update followers follower counts, right? Um well, that's the only thing we actually want to do is we'll call our follower count, which is an observable listener, then we will increase it by 1. Now, the thing about OBX values, right, is you don't get the value directly by just calling the OBX this variable. You use the dot value to get the actual value there. So I'm just going to say +1, right? Um, then store status, okay. Store status. So let's make that store status. Store status open. Right. So this definitely takes a parameter if it's true or false, right? Is it open or not? So all we'll do is just update the store status there and I'll pass in whatever it is. Then so we also want to be able to update follower lists, right? The follower lists. If of course if you have more persons, so it will just be a list. It will take a list of string, right? And we have our follower list that we created, right? Um, Let me see. Yeah, follower list. Okay, I did not spell it well. Follower. Follower list, yeah. But yeah, just assign all. Okay, so uh what else? Okay, we want to be able to add a new follower. Add new follower. So all our business logic, just string name to add a follower. And then basically the same thing, our follower list dot add the name. And then so let's go to the reviews, right? Let's add a review. Now, adding a review, you're basically getting your review should be of type what store what reviews, right? And then we'll now say reviews, which we have a list dot add, and then you pass in the store reviews. Now, so like I said, I remember saying something about GetX. You can allow it to dispose, right? Or you can manually dispose it yourself, right? To manually dispose it, we override the dispose function, right? Or dispose method, right? Just going to say, so let's say I want to dispose the store name editing control after I'm done with it, so that things don't get to just stay in that text field. And then the review, basically editing controllers are something you should dispose. So yeah. Okay. So yeah, this is interesting stuff, right? Yeah. Okay. So we have our controller and everything we kind of need, right? To that has to do with this screen, right? To kind of manipulate the stuff we have here. But one thing we do not have is to the ability to now use it, right? So we do not have screens, to kind of add follower, add count, add reviews, store status, update menu, and then update the store name. We don't have views to actually do that, right? Now that's going to be your task, right? That's going to be your task also. That's going to be your task number two. I'm going to give you the specification. There's just one thing I'm going to do here, and then I'm going to give you the specification on how each screen should look like, what it should contain. So let's see how well. So you can, of course, people should have different kind of, design. So, but before that, now that we have this, right? The thing is, how do we get to use this information now on this screen? Right? How do we get to use it on this screen? Now, currently we have not added anything. We don't have that, but we can actually, kind of use it now. So how do we use it? And that's what I want to show you before we round up. So that's our home dot dart. So let's start from the top, right? All these unused imports, well, can handle that later. So our app name is Storezy. We have so this is fine. This whole place is fine down to our nav drawer and all those stuff. That's actually fine. That this store info is just a label, which is what you have here. And then in the store info, right, you have a column and then you have a row which has the store name and this what we have store name here. Okay, so the store name here is a this is just a label, but this should actually now be the actual name. Like for example, Storezy Limited, for example, right? I'm just giving an example. This is actually what it should actually be, right? So, but remember, we already have a method where we can change the name, and the name is being stored somewhere. So how do we now use that name from the controller down to this place? How do we actually do that? Okay, how do we do that? So we can use the OBX here. So what I'm going to do is this text widget, right? First of all, I'm going to wrap it in a flexible widget because one of the things you cannot control is let me just show you something. Right? So these are things you one major issue you actually fight, right? Which I will actually create scenarios where you have to fight that issue, and then see how well you guys can solve it. But let me just so this text widget, right? Let me just wrap it with a flexible, right? I'm gonna wrap it with a flexible, and the fits will be flex fit dot tight. So that's actually that. Now, remember, one of the rules of using the OBX is that you should only wrap the particular widget where you are making use of that any OBX value, right? Wrap only that widget. Now, we want the store name. Now, we have, so instead of Storezy limited, I don't want to hard code it. So I'm going to say controller I believe we created a controller. Let me check. Okay, so we haven't actually created a controller yet. So let's create a controller that, that we can use, right? So let's see. Now we can the interesting thing about this, I can actually use this dynamic controller and it will actually find it. But let's test that. I've always wanted to, let me see. It should not give us that, it shouldn't. So let's create a, what's it called? Which is let's call it store controller. Let's be a bit, so store controller. Okay, so we are not getting that, so I need to, let's see. Okay, so I think there's something I did on that store controller. Okay, let's see. Yeah, I'll need to add a repository. Okay, guys, so sorry about that. Sorry about that. Where did you lose me? Anyone?
You were talking, but like the screen wasn't moving, so I don't know everything. We were talking about a stock
Okay,
controller.
so yeah, let me take a step back. So now we need to be able to, we need the controller, right? So that we can access, methods and, every other thing that we need. But if I put this, if I try to initialize it here, we see I'll have to pass in a repository, which at this point I kind of do not want to. So this is where our get view is actually a very interesting one. So I can pass in my store controller here, right? And then I should now have access to, just let me see, where is that guy? So I now have access to what? So what happens is that it now just, because I have made this get view, I've passed in this stock controller here. So what happens is, and of course, get view is you can see it as a great way of quickly accessing your controller without having to call get.find, right? So with this, you just use the controller keyboard, right? And it just associates itself to get the controller that that particular class actually what actually needs, right? So here I'm now going to say controller dot the store name. I have access to the store name, but of course it's an object, so I have to say dot value and then just convert it to what string, and then we are good, right? But this would not, we need to wrap this. Let me first of all, let me just save this, right? So you can see store controller not file, you need to call get.put or get.lazyput. Now we need to do this because we can't what the get view says here is that, look, is actually a quick way to access it without having to call get.what find. So it means that it has to already be what you have to already kind of like initialize it. And we have not actually rerun this, so there's no part where it has actually been initialized. So we'll probably have to kind of rerun it again. But before then, let me now bring up the topic of binding, right? So we're going to create a binding class that is basically just going to hold every um you know what was it called, every controller that we have, every class that we ever need to actually what kind of inject. Okay, so let me do that, right? um where do I create this? So you can actually just create a folder if you want, right? I'll call it bindings, right? And then I'm just going to have a class. I'm just going to call this store binding dot dart, right? And then in here, let me create a class called store binding, and it will implement the binding class. Yeah, bindings rather. So we need to override an implementation, and that implementation is called the dependencies. So what dependencies do you want to what, kind of bind? So first of all, we're going to follow this instruction. Want to lazily put the store controller. So get dot lazy put store controller, store controller. Now our store controller takes a repository, right? So I'm going to call my review repository, right? Which takes a provider, and I'm then going to call the store provider. So I have just initialized, I've just lazily put, everything I need. Now, so I'll have to rerun this, right? I have to just do a hot restart. And yeah, so with that, we should be able to access this control. You can see storage service has been this. So let's see. Social cannot find. You need to call this or get the lazy put. So we are okay. We have created the binding, right? But we need to initialize it in our main. In the get material app. So we have this initial binding. All I'm just going to do is call my store binding class, right? Yeah, store this stores. What did I call it? Um, yeah, yeah, store binding, right? Store binding. Okay, so we have to import that. Okay, so we're good. Yeah, we're good now. So we'll still need to do that kind of hot restart, right? So that when you're running the listen, your main, it kind of gets that. So you can see store controller has been created, store controller has been initialized, right? So yeah, back to our home, right? That should be home, yes. So we now need to wrap this in an OBX, right? So that it will listen, right? And listen to the changes here. So um, I'm just going to cut this, then say OBX, and then just paste this, right? So that's actually how that's actually how you're going to kind of call these stuff. So you can see here, store name is what Storezy. That's what was actually what's there, right? It's actually what Storezy. That's what was there. Though it's actually coming a bit further than I expected. So maybe we can well, you can actually just do whatever design stuff you want to do, maybe like kind of moving it, aligning it to the left or whatever, right? So but um that's not really unison. Or let's just, yes, ask your question.
Okay, what if you wrapped the flexible around the OBX instead of the text? You get, will it work?
Well, it's let's see. Well, it will still work actually, but OBX, yeah, it will still work. It will still work because OBX actually has to wrap the actual this thing. So if even if you wrap the OBX with just the text, that's also still fine. But I kind of I don't really say it's a convention thing, but kind of like saying OBX outside. This is just a simple. To me, these two are kind of like together. Kind of you're kind of looking at it from a hierarchical stuff. To me, these two actually seem together. So this is like the container. So you don't have to now have a text OBX and then a container is now like kind of wrapping the OBX. No, so the OBX should just wrap
No,
wrap
no,
the
no, no. What I was saying was because of the way the text came out, the way it was laid out before you changed. Get
The way it was, I didn't get that. The way it was laid out, huh? Didn't get that.
I feel like before you wrap the OBX, the stores was at the end, at the far right stage.
Okay. You mean that? It's not okay. Hold on. Let me just do this. Okay. So okay, you mean that okay, your think so okay. I think I get what you're asking. Okay, let me do it. Let me do that. Like this is from here down to here, right? So let's say OBX, right? And then I'll take out this guy and one of this, right? This is what you mean, right?
Yes, yes, yes.
Yeah. Okay. So it it doesn't actually make any difference, right? It doesn't make any difference. So if we wanted to do that, we kind of that's a UI problem. So it's not the OBX being external. The OBX doesn't have any effects on alignment or how things are being arranged. No, its job is just to update a value.
Okay, okay.
Yeah, yeah, that's the job, just to update a value. But like I said, this kind of doesn't really just look you know okay to me. So okay, so that's actually that. I want to believe you guys can. Part of your next task is to now put OBX values, call it in this other file. I'm going to push this. This is FT class 3. I'm going to push this, and I need you to be able to call, kind of replace stuff like the store followers, right? Let me just show you. Okay, David, go ahead, and then I'll just let you guys know what you're going to do. Go ahead.
My question is, how soon will we get this video such that we could be up to
You
date
you
with
get it you
what you
get
have?
it this night. You get it this night
Okay,
unfailingly.
thank you.
Yes, unfailingly. And then I'll push this code. Um, if I mainly I'm done, I'll just probably just push it here. So, but let me just run you guys through on what you're going to. So, Collins, please take notes, right? So that I'll know. I think this is like the third stuff I'm saying. So the store value, store followers, right? Okay. Just like we had here, right? So with OBX, right? Which is this text. So I need you to now have another text value here that which so this is basically going to just say with OBX, this is going to be a label, and then this will be the actual what number, which will be the follower count, right? We have a follower count here, right? So a follower count should be replaced here, right? That's just put that text with OBX, right? Um,
Okay,
and
okay.
then yeah, and then you can also do with wrap this whole place to and do with get builder. Okay, just so it's just like where you did this with get builder, and then I don't know, can you guys do get builder? Yes, now you should be able to. You did it the other time, so all you just need to do
Yes.
is okay, fine, this particular test you wrap it with a get builder, passing your controller, and then with that controller you now have access to the values, right? So same thing for status. The open, we already have a variable in the controller, right? So use it instead of that. But of course, you should be able to change the value to either closed or open. It should be one of them, right? By default, it is closed, it is open rather. But if it changes, right, so basically, if it has a value, it should be open. If not, so you actually have to use a ternary operator there, right? So let's see how much you guys can come up with that, right? So same thing for followers. Followers is just a list, right? So this, instead of using 5 as an item count, right, you're going to use the follower list that is there, and you have to wrap. So this is it, right? This is the thing about OBX. So you don't wrap the main card with the OBX. No, you now wrap the list view, because the main card, there are things inside the main card that does not have anything to do with OBX, right? And something like this title, it has nothing to do with OBX, right? You're giving a value here, but the list view is what needs the OBX. So you now wrap the list view with the OBX, and then you can now update the count, right? And then this text, you now use the index of the list, right? Same thing with your reviews. your OBS should be on your reviews, and then that is basically that. So the truth is, with the task I've given you, you can actually finish this application, but you know what, just make these updates, right? So Collins, this is what you do for me. Can you, if you can just type out these tasks, right? Just type it out and send it to me. Let me just go through and confirm so
Okay,
that I
okay.
can
I got,
upload it. Yeah.
sorry, I got the first task. You said we should abstract the text input. Sorry, the, I don't know, was it the text controller, the text input field? I think yes. And this third
um
one, but the second one I can't seem to remember it.
okay, so the second one, I said you guys were going to
Sorry, I can't hear you.
okay, Collins, can you hear me? Are you there?
Yes, yes, yes.
Okay.
But I missed it. I don't know if you were saying something.
Yeah, don't worry. I'll take that again, right? So you got the first task, right? The second one is these guys. You see these pages, these things, they have pages of their own. I I following
Okay,
me.
okay.
Yeah, so
Yes, yes.
you guys will be able, I'll give you, so just type it down. I'll remember because I need to step out. Um I'll let you, I'll part of the task I'll upload on the LMS is to tell which, how the UI of each of them will look like. That is the fields that is needed for each of them.
Okay,
Yes, so you guys will design that and keep, and then in of course, I'll grade that, and then in the next class we get to kind of do much more interesting stuff. So that's the UI of this, the very first one, and then updating the home page to make use of the OBX what values instead of this hard coded stuff.
okay, okay, okay.
Yeah.
The first one is abstract text field, so that we don't have to do it many times in the widget tree. Second
Yes.
one is to find out the layout of the screens in the drawer navigation and view.
Yeah, you design it. I'll send you the requirements, and then you guys will design those pages. Yes.
And the last one is to update the home screen with the OBX and get builder for the values in the store controller.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Okay, so yeah, thank you very much. Let me just, I'm just going to push, um, let me push this code for you guys. Okay, so it's,
I don't know if you are still gonna tell us, but like when we are pushing to the repo, are we going to push into a branch we create, or like
yes,
I
yes,
don't
yes, yes. I'll even add it to pass. You guys will switch. See the way I'm switching branches, right?
yeah.
Switch branches also.
Okay, but you'll be giving us a branch to be pushing to, right?
You can name your branch whatever you want to name it now.
Oh,
Your
okay, okay.
so for me, I just say class 2, class 3, and all those stuff, right? So um yeah, so git push origin ft class 3. Okay. Okay. Yeah. So yeah, that has been pushed. So okay, so thank you. Right. Just send me that stuff, and then I'll, so I can load up you guys' task on the learning management system.
Okay, all right. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you very much. Have a wonderful day.